Planetside 2 is a unique game. It really is the only game of its type. No other combined arms game has reached the scale of it. The Battlefield games had dreamt of such a scale, but they promptly forgot. No other game out now even attempts to capture that dream. Truth is, for the people that wanted this, Planetside 2 is all we have. So that's probably why we meet a good portion of criticism with what is practically our motto: Welcome to Planetside. Recently, a large update was announced. Something I had suggested on the forums actually showed up as a primary new feature. I doubt it was me that got the devs thinking, but it got me thinking. In the interest of making development quick and cheap, how could we use the mechanics in the game already to change up the game? So first I'm going to look into a few things that we can use to help balance the game. For the purpose of simplicity, I'm omitting the discussion of vehicles for now, and breaking everything into two broad categories: weapons or tools, specifically the ones you hold in your hands like the guns and repair or regen device, and everything else you equip, like suit slots, abilities, and implants. Right now it is generally agreed upon that weapons are mostly side grades, meaning that the intention has been that no weapon be just flat out better than another, rather performing differently in different situations. For example, shotguns and rifles. Neither one is hands down better, rather one is better closer up and one at a distance. There are some weapons in the game that could be considered upgrades, but again, for simplicity, let's assume that under the current mechanics they were meant to be relatively equal side grades. In the context of a shooter where you select a loadout, this generally makes sense. If one gun was just the best, it would be the only one being used. With one gun, there is generally one strategy, one thing to do, and if you can't do it, then too bad, this game isn't for you. And with leveling over time, straight upgrades could tip the balance too much in favor of the skilled veteran players. They would just get better over time, and in exchange be rewarded with better equipment, making them far and away too powerful compared to new players. In other MMOs, this is okay because player versus player combat is generally segmented into level-based tiers. In Planetside 2 it's not, everybody is thrown onto the same map. But I don't think this needs to cut us off from the idea of one piece of equipment being better than the other. I think we could use the mechanics already built into the game to breathe new life into the equipment and give the players a plethora of new items to unlock and play with. And we are going to breathe this life into the equipment by doing something that sounds crazy. We're going to make everything cost more. Let's exclude premium currency for now. In its absence, the only real thing to unlock new items is certs, the in-game currency rewarded for completing objectives. You gather them over time and then spend them to unlock an item. Once you have unlocked the item, you can then equip it and spawn with it the same as you could spawn before. Right now, the only additional cost to spawn an item is a nanite one. Grenades, C4, and a few other items cost these nanites, which you gain in a lump sum every minute or so until you reach the maximum. Right here we see a mechanic that could be used more. A nanite cost could conceivably be added to anything. If it costs nanites to spawn your new gun every life, then the gun costs more. Since it has some cost every life, it could just conceivably be better. You could even make changes and balance between the two costs of the weapon. You could have two versions of the same gun, one with a low cert cost and a high per life nanite cost, and the other with a high cert cost and a low per life nanite cost. Expanding on this, you could have a loadout that costs no nanites, and a loadout with advanced armor, guns, sensors, everything that drains your nanites completely dry every time you spawn it. I think I could understand someone having a flat-out better gun than mine if I know that as soon as I kill them, they can't get it again for a while. In addition to a flat per-life cost, the devs added in a cost for life lived to some items: implants and power. Implants are an item that is distributed semi-randomly, and then to use one it needs to be powered up. There are multiple tiers of implants, each higher one drawing more power resource. Again, this could be added to any other item, each item adding a small power drain to your total loadout. Maybe a new, more powerful lasher drains half an energy a second of being up, or a cheap upgrade to the jump jets has a power leak and needs 2 units of power every second. Just like certs and nanites, this third resource can be added in and changed to alter how an item is used or balanced. A gun could cost 2,000 certs but have no nanite or power cost, or maybe it cost only 100 certs, 10 nanites to spawn per life, but 1 power per second of being alive. You can buy it, spawn it, and then run it if you have the power. Maybe a better version of the same gun is only really better because it drains less power or costs fewer nanites every time you want to spawn it. There are other costs you could add to items. There are a few types of time cost you could add. Perhaps after selecting a spawn point, it takes time to build you and your equipment. There is already a spawn timer, so you could have a loadout that reduces it or increases it but gives you better equipment. You could do the same to medic's revive mechanics, making it take longer to revive you with all your fancy-ass crap, or giving the medic more time to reach your body and revive you. You don't even necessarily need to apply all the costs the same. You could have power cost per spawn or nanites per second of being alive. Maybe some crazy powerful item that costs certs per spawn, or even second lived. For the newbies, you could have items that increase resource gain of certain types for being helpful. Maybe an implant that costs no power but also gives you an energy point every time you get an assist. Assistance items like this would have the opportunity cost of the slot they take up, and help newbies build up the resources they need to run their low cert cost, high spawn, or life cost equipment. Maybe a new tool that removes enemy bodies from the field and gives you your own resource of your choice. Deny the enemy their resources and gain your own. Actually, economic warfare might be its own other video. So, now that we've come up with a few ways to free ourselves from side grades by adding additional costs to equipment, what can we do with it? Well, let's take our 6 currencies, certs, nanites, power, print time, res time, and corpse time, and contemplate a few loadouts and items. First, let us consider a newbie's loadout. This alternate universe player could start with a wider variety of equipment. Here, our new player has a simple loadout. Very little to add to his print time, an SMG, no extra armor, and an implant that increases corpse time to 60 seconds. Let's name it appropriately. A cheap and quick-to-print loadout like this would let newbies and others with weak equipment get back into the fight quicker. This would give newbies more time where they're learning how to play and have fun. Now let's look at our other starting loadout. It may look like some endgame equipment, more weapons, pouches for ammo, and grenades, heavy armor, heavy shield, and a cool hat, but it costs 200 nanites to spawn, 50 power to spawn, takes 30 seconds to print, can't be revived, and draws 2 power every second it's alive. A friendship implant could give a newbie 2 power every second he's defending an objective, so our newbie can play with his fancy toys for a while if he's smart, by standing near a capture point and defending it. As for individual items, we could have a huge variety of them. Instead of just the nanite armor upgrade, you could have a bunch. Hard light trauma pads, plus 1 second to spawn, minus 2 corpse time, 5 nanites, 3 power a second, 20% reduced damage, and you glow. Nanite ballistic cuirass, plus 2 seconds to spawn, 10 nanites, and 15% reduced damage. High density plate, 10 seconds to spawn, plus 3 to res time, 5 nanites, 25% reduced damage, and you move 10% slower. Yes, I will be throwing in mechanics as I go along. To wrap up on making things cost more, I'll touch on how exactly these currencies are different. Currently, certs and power are somewhat skill-based. You get them for doing things in the game, completing objectives, getting kills, getting experience. Logically, people who do better in the game will generally have more. Contrary to that, nanites and time are evenly distributed across all players. Unless you are playing from the ISS, your 1 hour of time in the game is the exact same as everyone's. You would generate the same number of nanites in that hour, excluding boosts and membership, as another person. Your 5 seconds out of the fight are 5 seconds. Of course, you could argue that a skilled player's 5 seconds of time represents a greater opportunity cost of certs and power than an unskilled player, but I'm not here to teach economics. Just understand that the differences in each currency change how their cost would affect the game if they're implemented. Originally, I was going to talk about the mechanics of guns themselves, as it was a forum post on .75 ADS that spurred me to make this video, but I think I've droned on enough about expanded cost. And as a soldier, firearms scholar, gunsmith, and all-around tech geek, I'll have way too much to say on that for this video. So leave your comments where I can find them, and upvote this video so I can get some feedback. Thank you for watching, and don't die.